So that was a fascinating year for WotC and Hasbro. What are your predictions for 2025? Who wants to go first?
2025 or 2024?
2024. What's
Okay.
your prediction for 2073, Baron? Tell me.
No, you don't want to know my predictions for
Oh no, it's probably
2073.
bleak.
Well, 2023, we'll all be dead and enslaved by our AI masters, but that's a whole other topic.
My prediction in 2073 is that we will be recovering from the American-Japanese war that kicks off in Turkey and Poland. That's
my
my
God.
hot take.
All right, well, you got a long way to go for that. And, I'll probably be so old and decrepit and still making books every month. What is your prediction for D&D and WotC and all this fun stuff next year? Because next year, man, that's the big year. They got to make money.
I think the 50th anniversary is going to be a flop.
Ooh, wow.
I think it's going to be a flop.
How so?
I think that it will be predominantly released as a video game and it will make a lot of money, but the sensation of what D&D is will be just completely draining down the toilet. Like it will no longer be perceived as with the onset of D&D 50th anniversary.
Mm-hmm.
The concept of D&D as a folk game will be at its peak and in sharp decline. It will no longer be perceived culturally as a folk game. It will be moving into the realm of a walled garden officially that year.
What do you think? What do you think, Mark?
I think that it's going to be successful financially. I think that the new revised rules for at least the core set are going to sell well. I think that this VTT that Steven and Professor Dungeon Master thought was fantastic, and he is one of the hardest people that you would have to sell on that, right? I think
he's even harder than me. Way harder.
Yes. But Steven's into that kind of thing if he thinks it's done well, and Professor Dungeon Master isn't, and he still liked it. So I think that that's going to do well based on those indicators. And I think that I wouldn't put it the same way that Baron did, of like that it's on top of a peak that's going to decline. It's no longer a folk game. We won't recognize it, or those kind of things. But I do think that it's going to change the paradigm of how the game is played, in the same way as we were talking earlier about, the little kids now don't know how to use a controller. They're all going to run up to the screen and try to move Mario with their finger. And it's going to leave people who always did things in the old ways probably a little bit being like, whoa, wait a minute, things are different now. But I don't think that means it's going to be a failure. It just means that things are going to change. And I predict that they're going to succeed, and that ultimately most people are not going to remember 2023 and all the missteps of 2023, except for, like Steven said, a CNBC article occasionally when they do something else bad will bring up, remember when they did the Pinkertons? And then people are like, oh yeah, I didn't remember until you reminded me that they did the Pinkertons. This is going to be confined to the dustbin of history. And only people like us who were really involved in it are going to actively remember it when we're not reminded.
Yeah, for sure.
My prediction is pain. No.
The Sith Lord.
That's from Rocky 3.
How is it? Oh
yeah. Which prediction? Clever Lang. Pain. So I predict that 99% of the people who buy the D&D book, the Player's Handbook, which will come out in May, will not give a crap about any of this. They do not follow the OGL. They do not follow Hasbro. They do not follow people getting fired. All they want is to consume product, and new product, new shiny product, consume. And WotC is going to do a very good job promoting this. They're going to get it into the bookstores. They're going to get it into Target. They're going to get it into Amazon, they're going to have a huge splash page, a whole section on Amazon where you can buy the book, of course, not the PDF, but only the book, no electronic versions because they don't do those. And it's going to do very well. They're going to go to the conventions. They're going to get the same 4 people they always get, which is Amanda. Who are the other 3?
Amanda, Jeremy, Chris Perkins, and James Wyatt, right? They
Yes,
always have
they're going to be the
those
4. Yep, those 4 will be going to all the conventions. They're going to be very perky, very upbeat, because they know their jobs are safe. And they will have no problem selling this publicly. They're also very good at public. They're very good at public speaking. And they're going to
talented. Clearly, they're talented designers. They're good at doing these presentations, and they can give a polished talk that keeps people excited.
Yeah, and they're going to go to these conventions and they're going to talk it up, and they're going to be trained on just not answering questions about anything negative, privately or publicly, and it is going to all be glossed over. And I have a feeling that I don't know if it's going to be a smash success, but the Player's Handbook is always the #1 seller by a mile.
And it always outsells whatever was coming before it when they do a new Player's Handbook, and it always will.
People say they're going to boycott, okay? Well, you know what? Back to my video game world. Everyone said they were going to boycott the Harry Potter game. They were not going to buy that game. No one was going to buy it. How dare they?
I don't think anyone said that nobody was going to buy it. No, I think a lot of the people who said that they were going to boycott it did boycott it.
Yes.
Just a lot of people did not boycott it.
It was one of the highest grossing games of the entire year.
Yeah, it was.
One of the top sellers.
A lot of people never even heard about it. And the first they heard about it is they talked to someone who was boycotting, and they didn't know or hear about the controversy.
Yeah.
And they were surprised to hear about it because most people aren't as plugged in as you, the viewer, who is viewing a year in review news stream about the tabletop RPG industry, and us, 3 people who are talking in a news stream about the tabletop RPG industry. We're plugged in. We see everything. But the average person doesn't even see this at all. They don't see any of the increasingly messed up statements that the author was making. They don't see any of the controversy and the back and forth. They just are like, oh, I read that book series. I'm going to get the video game.
And that's exactly what will happen, is that people will hear about a new version of D&D. Now, the only caveat is that a lot of people who play D&D are usually, and I'll say usually, plugged in, but not everyone, because everyone in my group, all except one, knew what happened with the OGL. And as I said in my earlier video this week, one of my very best friends who plays weekly a D&D game, he's the one who played through all 3 adventure paths by Eric Mona from beginning to end. This guy plays D&D religiously, and he knew nothing about what was going on. He knew nothing about the OGL. Yep. And it's just like, wow, these people are pretty hardcore, and they don't know. And I think it's a very, 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 very small segment.
Just to sign off on a philosophy tangent here for the chat. If you wanna read about the phenomenon that we are discussing, Jean Baudrillard wrote a book called Simulation and Simulacra, and discusses how we here in the internet verse are basically the simulacra, the simulation of the real world, and we are not real.
No, it's true.
What people experience on Twitter as reality is absolutely not reality. Go out into the real, like the joke of go out and touch grass. There's a lot of merit to that. Like, most people just have no idea what we're talking about here on the internet. It feels really real to us, but it's not.
Yeah, and I have a feeling it's I have a feeling they're going to be on their best behavior until May, and I have a feeling they will probably even start throwing out bones and free stuff and try to get people back. I'm getting a lot of emails saying, come back to D&D Beyond, please. I'm begging you to come back, please. There's all this free stuff. It doesn't cost anything. I swear to God, I get so many of these emails now. I was like, yeah, I bet you're begging. You want us back? You need that revenue. You need that subscription service, baby.